Welcome, friends and colleagues, to Live Office Hours number 14. It is Monday. It is the last Monday of the month where we have our Live Office Hours. And today we are talking about teaching a song to a child, or actually teaching a song to a beginner, because really all of the strategies today are applicable to any age of beginner singer. I'm going to share my screen, and I want everybody to let me know that you can see my screen and make sure that everybody can see what's going on. Everybody, ma'am, can see the screen? Awesome. I want to thank everybody for sending such great questions. As always, the Live Office Hours is based off of teachers' questions, and that's what makes them so helpful. And we're all sharing a lot of common challenges in our teaching studio. So it's great to hear the questions from other teachers because they often apply. If we have not met, I'm just going to hide my magic cursor there. My name is Nikki Loney from Full Voice Music, and Full Voice Music is a small but fierce education company from Canada. I'm in Nova Scotia, and my partner in crime, my longest friend and colleague, Mim Adams, is here with us. Say hi, Mim.
Hi. Right now I'm in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Our evil agenda is to share creative, inclusive, engaging pedagogy for teachers working with young singers. And Live Office Hours is something that we've been doing for just over a year, and we've had huge success. This is a part of a series, and if you missed any of our previous topics, and there's some great topics with great guests, you can see that on our YouTube channel. The Live Office Hours are there for everyone to enjoy. Now, as always, we have prizes at our Live Office Hour. And today, since we're talking about teaching a song, we are going to offer a song download, a single song download. So if there's a song in our library that you've been eyeing, and you're looking for some new repertoire for this upcoming season, this is a great opportunity. And Ellie gave me a heart, so she's very excited. And we have low numbers today. Y'all might just get a prize. So there you go. I got so many emails from voice teachers because it's Memorial Day in the States, so they've got activities today, which is totally fine. Anyhow, we're talking about teaching a song to a beginner, and this is such a challenging part of our jobs. I want to back up just a little bit, just with some educational theory first. We do need to address the curse of knowledge. Some people know it as the curse of the expert, but we all have, every single one of us, including me, especially Mim. No.
What?
No, we all have a cognitive bias, and it makes it difficult for us. Welcome, Julie. It makes it difficult for us to relate to the beginner experience. And the curse of knowledge is sneaky. And the longer you've been teaching, the chances are you have more curse of knowledge bias in your teaching. So this is going to come into play when we're working with our beginners of any age, and we're teaching them the complex matter of learning a song. It's challenging for us to remember what it's like not to know. I know if I grab a piece of music, just scanning it, all of the information goes into place. The key signature, the time I start to hear the melody in my brain, that is not the beginner's experience. When you hand a piece of music to a child, you might as well be handing some Japanese kanji symbols to them, because it just doesn't make sense. So we need to unpack that and break it apart in pieces. So this is an interesting question, and I'm really glad that somebody asked this. Is this the singing teacher's role in general, teaching a song to the student, or just when teaching kids? And this is really interesting question. Excuse me. The role of the voice teacher has evolved. Traditionally, especially in post-secondary, voice lessons were primarily focused on vocal production. That was my lessons when I went to jazz school at college. Because I had a theory teacher, an ensemble teacher, a repertoire development teacher, I had all of the other specialties handled in other classes. So my teacher could focus only on what I was doing with my voice and some performance things, of course. But when we are working with children or beginners, I would say children, tweens, teens, and advocational adults, it requires a broader approach because young singers and beginners don't have access to all the separate learning environments, and parents don't have the money to pay for all of those professionals. So yes, we kind of have this huge umbrella of things that we need to take care of. So in a private lesson, the singing teacher, we become not only their vocal coach, but their music theory teacher, their expressive arts teacher, their drama teacher. You know, we have to break down all of these things. And especially if you're with beginners, you're also building that musical identity. Right? You're not just teaching them how to sing. You're discovering what music is. There is a huge responsibility. And I love this saying, a comprehensive voice lesson is where we support the whole song, not just the voice that sings it. So many beautiful, and now, it's easy to get overwhelmed here, but I would like people to take it as an opportunity and all of the wonderful opportunities that we have to make an impact, to influence, to support, to mentor. I think it's a beautiful opportunity. So yes, if you're working with beginners, teaching them the song falls under your job description. Now, what does one begin with when teaching a song to a beginner? And in what order? A lot of people ask this. Do we start with lyrics? Do we focus on diction? Do we do the melody? Do we do the rhythm? Where does it all start? Now, I would like to say that there's no rule about which element you start with. There's a lot of creative ways that we can approach teaching a song, and I would encourage people to approach it in many different ways, especially for different learners. But there is one element that has to be it's non-negotiable. You have to start, and that is with curiosity. This is the sparking of their interest, piquing their interest. If a student isn't curious or emotionally connected to the song, to the ideas in the song, to a tiny concept in the song, none of the technical elements will stick. Your lesson won't be sticky. And you'll be struggling with that student. We want to begin by anchoring. The term is called anchoring. So we're anchoring the song, the concepts in the song to something that they already know, something that is personal, or something that is familiar. Now, I know in my early days of teaching, I love to share with the student what I thought about the song and how I felt about the song and why I had to learn that song when I was their age. That is not the appropriate approach, because you want to have a conversation, not a lecture. And I have a video in real time of what this looks like. And I specifically want you to focus on one of the students in the video. So this video is taken back in the pandemic when we had to move online. And this is my small group class. And this is how I introduced a new song that they have never heard before. And this is how I got them. And if you think keeping kids engaged in an in-person lesson is challenging, well, let me tell you about being online. They're all in their rooms with lots of distractions. So this is my video. Please let me know if you can see it and hear it. Okay, so I've got all my singers here. Okay. Everybody's feeling good today?
Yeah.
I got awesome. All right, so I have a new song written by Donna, of course, because she's awesome, about wolves.
Wolves.
Okay, I thought you might like it. So what have we sung about? We're singing about a hamster. We've sung about dogs. What else have we sung about?
We might have sung a or a song about a horse.
I think so. Maybe
Ourselves.
What? Somersaults, right, our summer somersault song. Okay, so first of all, I always like to ask, does anybody know any fun facts about wolves? Isabel. Oh my gosh, okay, Allie, give me some fun facts.
They howl at the moon.
Well, they do howl, yes. Wolves are famous for their haunting howls. What else? What else? Yes, Piper.
I have two facts. The wolves only howl at the full wolf moon, and they usually only hunt at night.
I did not know that. Ooh, cool. What else? What else? Anybody know it? Oh, yes, Allie.
I know how I can find more facts.
Well, okay, we're not going to Google right now.
The internet.
All right, so yes, we had to Google some more facts. Ruby had indeed Googled some facts and we talked about it. So if you noticed Piper in the corner there, Piper was kind of flipping back and forth. She kept kind of going back to her bed, distracted, pet the cat, came back, went back. Asking about what they know and asking them to share information is so important. It's not about me telling them a bunch of fun facts. It was about them sharing what they knew. Now, what's interesting in that video is that the beginning I asked them, we've been working on what songs have we been working on? That's a low risk question, and a question that I knew that they could answer and that they could participate in. So sometimes, especially in the beginning of lessons, we want to ask questions that we pretty sure, 100% sure know that they can answer, because we need them to feel confident. Being a learner is vulnerability. So nobody wants to get the question wrong. So nobody's going to put their hand up to ask it. And it brings in all this anxiety. So with this type of approach, and my go-to is fun facts. Fun facts. Do you know any fun facts about this? Right? Asking them to put it to something that they are familiar with. Now, moving into what do you do next? Do you do like a verse? Do you do the chorus first? Do you do the end first? Moving on from that video, I'll just summarize it. We talked about the howl in our conversations. The kids brought up the howl and they talked about the howl and they shared information about the howl. So when I taught this song, and I love teaching Wolf in the Forest, if you've got littles, this is a great song. There's this beautiful howl melody, the ooh melody that Donna wrote, that is the howl of the wolf. That's where I started. And we used the howl that the wolf does in this song as their warm up. And we learned that first. And then we went and talked about a bunch of other things. So that introductory conversation there you have where information is shared is often going to tell you where you want to start and where their interest is, so you can start where they are interested. And that is like engagement 101. And whether you choose to teach melodies or rhythms, again, there's no right or wrong there, as long as you have piqued their curiosity and they are excited to learn about whatever you're teaching them about. Now, do you read through the words first to understand the story, or do you teach the vocal melody as part of a warm-up? So again, this is a great question. I want to just talk about reading versus reading comprehension. So reading or reading aloud. You can have a very young student, sometimes even like 6 or 7 years old, that is very confident in their reading aloud or reading skills, but that does not mean that their reading comprehension is where we think it is. Understanding text, understanding story is particularly more challenging when you have rhyming patterns, when you have old-fashioned language. I had a little one that did not know what the word weep meant, which was problematic because we were singing a lullaby where you were singing "Don't You Weep," But children don't walk around going, oh, I'm weeping today. So they don't know some of the old words. Again, curse of knowledge. We forget that even sometimes like language skills, understanding language and context is a lot more challenging than we think. And so this is one of the reasons why I do think that reading through lyrics, not just reading through them, but having that conversation. And this is why all full voice music has lyric pages with it. The other thing that's on these pages that is essential, and it's not just because it looks pretty, it has to do with neuroscience and cognitive abilities, is that we always have images on our pages. Images help to spark their conversations. It helps to spark their interest and their curiosity. And the images on the lyric pages can also be a wonderful way to get some questions and some conversation going. What this does is it creates non-verbal working memory. This is an executive function skill that we are developing, and children's primarily, not just children, tweens, teens, and young adults are developing this skill. So without nonverbal working memory, which is those pictures in the mind, memorization is not going to happen. So we have to be able to see the story in our mind, and our brain puts everything in order, the sequence of the story, which, my friends, is a very high level cognitive ability, and children and people with learning disabilities, people with ADHD often need more time with this. They need more support with this. So when you are doing lyrics, it's more than just reading them aloud and discussing them. It's about having a conversation, helping them anchor it to something that they know, something that is familiar, discovering the words that might not have meaning yet for them. And it's so very important. And I wanted to share with everybody, there is a free download on our website. It's called Lyric Discovery. I developed this after the gut punch, which was me doing lyric discovery when my students went online in the pandemic, and I discovered that even my adults had no clue about what their songs were about, and I felt like I had failed as a teacher because nobody knew what was going on. This is a really great activity if you have a student that needs a no singing lesson. So maybe their voice is a little tired from having a cold, or they just need something. This is a great activity. It's pretty intense. I would break it into pieces, but this is a very helpful little freebie. So moving on to another amazing question. What are ways to keep learning a new song fun, especially with unmotivated singers? This is such a good question. And I think 4 or 5 people asked something similar to this question. Oh my goodness. Oh, those singers that just give us a hard time, and they're just the eyeball rolling. Eyeball rolling drives me nuts. It's really hard for me not to go to rage town when people roll their eyes. I lose it. But so when it comes to singers that are giving you a hard time, it's important to start by recognizing what's behind the resistance. If a student is shutting down or not wanting to do a song or giving you certain activities they're really not enjoying, it's often not boredom. It's usually vulnerability. New material means new challenges, means they're going to make mistakes, means they're going to be told that they have to do it again, that they didn't do it right. And for a lot of our students, not just kids, but especially tweens and teens, this is a hard pill to swallow. So it's often that it's not that they're bored, they're unsure, they're overwhelmed, they're afraid of not getting it right. So the sparking curiosity and having conversations about it again is going to alleviate some of those fears about, learning something new. And again, asking low stake, open-ended questions, where they get to share some of their thoughts. And some examples would be, what do you think this song is about, just by looking at the title? That might not work for all, like Pickles, is a song about a hamster. That might be a tough question. For older student, you might want to say, well, what part looks interesting? What part looks tricky, right? Get them to scan the store. Or, what does this lyric make you think of, right? So you're exploring rather than commanding compliance and making them sing it. The other thing that can really help here is give them choices. Anytime someone puts that protective wall up, one of the key ways to get that wall to come down is by offering them choice. Would you like to start at the chorus? Do you want to try this chorus part, or do you want to start at the verse? Do you want to speak the lyrics, or do you want to clap some rhythms? Do you want to listen to the piano part? That's another one. That's another one that I liked. Would you like to just hear this piano part? But then you give them active listening. I want you to tell me or put your hand up when you hear the piano part get really sad. And now they're listening for something specific. Or I'm going to play the piano part, but I want you to tap to the beat. I want you to move to the beat. Just, maybe that's part of your warm-up. I'm going to relax to the beat. There's so many ways that you can give them different choices. Choice builds engagement, and it reduces the pressure and the fear of failing so much. You, of course, can gamify the process, turn parts into playful, non-threatening challenges. And you can even do things, if you need them to do things on repeat, you can do things like, can you sing this phrase with a silly voice and then sing this phrase with your best musical theater voice? Lots of ways to challenge them. And of course, incorporating movement, gestures. Let's try this song and that also helps with memorization, is gestures, like putting gestures to the songs. There's so many ways that you can break it apart and try different little things, but choice is so important. The other beautiful thing about choice is it allows students to show us where they feel they are most confident. And that is an important teaching observation, because then where a good entry point into learning something new is if you've been teaching through observation. This is also another great question. So how do you get students excited about the small steps? Oh my goodness, the students that just want to do the thing, right? Again, that's often coming from a place of vulnerability. If I just sing this whole song, you can't tell me all the things I made, all the mistakes I made, right? I can just run through it. But this is very much a mindset shift. And it's hard for some kids. Breaking things down into smaller steps can be really challenging. But helping students understand that the little pieces, the little steps are not a delay. They're actually the blocks of building a song. So comparisons that I have used, actually one of my students gave this to me. You want to learn a cool dance. Well, you have to learn the little steps before you can do the whole routine. And one of my dancers gave me that. And I was like, that is great. I'm going to steal that. And I did. For your students that are into sports, right? You go in the batting cage to practice your swings before you go and play a game, right? I know this. I live this every day. Theater kids, you got to practice your lines and your scene before you get to do the whole play. So there's a lot of analogies that you can use. And then the other one, cooking, you got to get all your ingredients together before you make that cake. We're working on this ingredient today. But one of the biggest things that's really helpful is celebrating the micro wins, the little things. And one of the best techniques for this is moment marking language. Now, we've covered this in other presentations. This is part of our practicing workshop that we do. Moment marking language is when we specifically give feedback on something that they did really great. Because here's what happens in a studio when we're trying to kind of get through things to be productive. They do something, they do a good job. We do, oh, that was really great. Now, they might not know exactly what we were talking about. We might have heard the phrase being sung in one breath, but they were listening for a high note, but maybe they weren't sure that the high note was good. And so you're telling them they did a good job. They don't know what it's about. So moment marking language looks like, I love the way you sang that phrase all the way through to the end. How did you do that? Can we try that again? That was beautiful. And you notice I'm not saying, I love the way you sang that phrase, but, and then give them a correction. Because then you're basically just taking away that compliment. So moment marking language helps us to identify all those micro wins. And it's like a little booster to their confidence throughout the lesson. Because what happens in a lot of lessons, and I know I've fallen into this trap, is where like, we got to fix this, and I got to fix that, and I got to fix that. So a half-hour lesson turns into a micro, here's all the things you did wrong, and you need to go and practice. Mim's shaking her head. I know, we've all done it, and we've had it done to us. Right? So switch it, change it into, these are all the things you're doing really, really well. And then specifically only maybe focus on one thing they need to correct. That's going to help them see that there's wonderful work in doing these little steps, and you're going to build their confidence by these little celebrations. And it could be as simple as a high five. I loved the way you sang that high note. Do you remember 3 weeks ago when you could not sing that high note? I need a high five there. That was awesome. High fives, by the way, are little physical resets. So for all the cognitive focusing that we're doing, you know, we're fixing this, we're reading the music, we're clapping the rhythm. A high five is a little reset, and they're really important. So very important. I love this question. What kind of home practice is realistic and practical for an absolute beginner who has no piano skills and can't read music? This goes back to that first thing about, working with beginners. If you're working with a pro, right, they come to you with musical skills and abilities. They can pretty much learn the songs on their own, and they probably are motivated to practice because there's consequences if they don't. But with a child just learning, this is a whole other different ballgame. Now, we have a whole workshop about this. We run it a few times a year. Our practice, progress, and success workshop covers this in great length. So I basically have summarized the entire workshop in this next slide. But when you are working with beginners, first of all, you assign what they can already do successfully. They have to be able to do it independently, and that may not happen the first time you introduce something to them. So know that practicing is not, I've introduced something, now you must take it home and solidify it. We do not have independent learners that have the skills or the resources to do that yet, right? One of the things that we need to normalize is listening. Listening to music, listening to their song is practice. And that's something that they can do. Parents can put their tracks on in the car. They can set that up at home. They can play the stuff before dinner, after dinner. That's one of the first steps, is listening. The other thing that I like to do with beginners is speaking or chanting the lyrics. This is actually, again, we're dealing with young people that are developing speaking skills, language skills. So speaking and practicing the lyrics is really good work for them. Then they can focus on the rhythms and the music, the melodies, because the language is much more confident. And most importantly, you want to keep practice positive and pressure-free. So every family is different with how you're going to utilize technology. You're going to have conversations with families about what's the best practice for them. It's not going to be the same for each family. Some families might want an MP3. Some families that might not work for them. So again, there's a lot here. But these would be my go-to for starting with beginners. As they get more confident, as they become more skilled, as the family gets more into the routine of your studio, you can discuss what more detailed practice is going to look like. And the most important thing is how you are going to support the family. So, but again, if you're really struggling with practice, I would love for you to come and join us for our practice workshop because it's really helpful. Now, more great questions. How do I incorporate, I love this question. How do I incorporate sight reading tools to build musical independence, love it, and detailed song learning habits, even in beginners? And then the other question that was similar to this is, what are the best strategies for helping singers become more musically independent? I love this. I love this. So, biased answer first. This is why we created the full voice workbooks. Now, one of the things I would love to see more teachers doing, instead of rushing through the workbooks and trying to get the workbooks done, you want to take what you've learned, a little section in the workbook, and then you bring it into and you relate it to the repertoire that they are working on. So if your student has been drawing quarter notes and half notes in their full voice workbooks, you go to their music and you ask them to find the quarter notes and the half notes. If you have been looking at slurs and staccato markings, can they find the slurs and the staccato markings in their music? It's about relating it to their repertoire rather than just getting through the workbook and doing all the exercises like checking a list. Relate it to their repertoire. This is so helpful. And know that this is a long game. Learning to read music is, I don't know, a few decades of reading music, looking at it, experiences, challenges. And one of the things I'm going kind of off of topic here, but this is something that I used to see a lot in my studio. So while I worked with a lot of young singers, the other side of my studio was older avocational adults who had come to lessons because they were now semi-retired or retired, and they don't know how to read music, but they want to join the choir. They want to sing in the choir. And I just had this conversation with a woman at my church yesterday. She loves to sing. She's been singing her whole life, but following a score is something that overwhelms her, so she's not going to join the choir. What? I know, it's heartbreaking. So anytime we can put music literacy in, anytime we can, like, that big umbrella of responsibilities, I think it's easy to weave these things into song study, right? Asking them to follow the score. This is where our Songs and Studies for Kids book has solfege studies in it, and they are introductory music reading studies to get them to look at the score, to get them to look at the music and ask questions about the music. So this is so very important, and it takes time. So I guess my big thing is patience and encouragement. And even my adults that came who are like YouTube, right? And by the way, YouTube is a wonderful tool. I just did a podcast with Jeff Costello talking about the benefits of the technology that we have. It is a wonderful tool, but even with all of my adults that come in using YouTube, I tend to try and find the sheet music and incorporate looking at the sheet music a little bit in their lesson. Not for the whole thing, but for that. I also will take the YouTube sing-along videos away from them and make them look at lyric pages so that they can stop counting by watching when the words light up and actually listen to the music. Right? Yes, they need to know the score. And even just to follow the score, as long as they understand that it is a map and introduce those symbols, it's a wonderful way. And every time I have those adult students that come to me and they're so terrified of reading music. I don't read music. I'm like, can you read a map? well, yeah. Like if I were to give you a map of Ontario, could you figure it out? And they're like, well, yeah. And I said, well, then you can learn to read music because it's just a map. Oh, okay. So a lot of times their fear is just basically the unknown. So anyhow, yes, ultimate music theory is an excellent tool. Yes, I've used that one. I use that one with my older students. That's like any time you are introducing the language and breaking it down into pieces. Now, there was quite a few questions about how do you approach songs with a student who keeps drifting off pitch. Pitch accuracy and developing pitch accuracy, that's a big conversation. And we actually did that. It was our first live office hours. Now, I will summarize briefly: more voice to voice exercises, more voice to voice singing. A lot of times we want that piano to lead. Let the voice lead. So if I'm working with a singer that's struggling with pitch, I'm not going to play the piano accompaniment. I'm not going to play their notes in the piano. I might play it once. Then I said, I'm going to sing it, and then you're going to sing it back to me. Right? So I'll sing the phrase, they sing it back to me. Now, if they sing it incorrectly or their pitch is a little weird, I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to sing it again. And then I'm going to let them, and I'm going to go back and forth. Singers need to hear the human voice, and the piano is a complex sound. It has overtones. It often confuses brains. That's why sometimes our singers are singing fifths and fourths out. Because they're hearing, their brain is going, no, listen to this overtone. I think you want to sing that overtone, right? So voice to voice work is a wonderful way. And then bring the piano back in, and then bring in the accompaniment. And then if they still struggle, go back to singing the phrase with their voice. Go back and forth, give them lots of different experiences and exercises with just hearing the voice, and really helping them to develop that internal listening, audiation. That's so important. Is it easier for them if you have them sing through the whole song at least once? Or the other question that was kind of in line, Melissa says, so crazy. That happens with a few students. They hear overtones. Oh my gosh, they hear them loud and proud. The other time you'll hear this sometimes is with boys when they're going through voice change and they're not really happy about the note you want them to sing. So they'll go like down a fourth or a fifth and they'll find something else. That can be really challenging for them. So going back to this question, performance practice, how can I help a student add that extra zing? I love that. To take their song from practice to performance. So again, the more we do in the lesson, the better. So yes, if you're working with a student, if they are ready to sing that song all the way through, I think they should sing it through at least 3 times. What? That's right. And you don't make corrections the first time because they were just warming up. By the 3rd time, you're going to see a more realistic kind of version of what they are capable of. But it is so important for them to do the singing in the lesson. They have to be able to sing that song all the way through without your assistance in order to practice it successfully at home. The more repetitions you can do in a lesson, and yes, that's going to change your lesson pacing. And that was our last live office hours, was all about lesson pacing. But that is going to solidify the concepts and give them the confidence to do it at home. And then as far as performance practice, yeah, you got to set up mini performance opportunities in your lesson. Like walk them through it. I said, okay, it's practice performance time. You go over there, you sit over there, and then you're going to walk to the piano. You're going to introduce yourself, and you're going to sing out to this part of the room. So you change up the room, maybe set up a little stage area. That's a really helpful way to get them there. But the other question that came in that was kind of along this, how long should we work on a song if we see the student is getting bored after a couple of weeks, even if there is still areas of improvement? This is very much a challenge, and it's not just children. In fact, I think my teens are the ones. I had a teenager that every week wanted to sing something different. And it was really challenging to get him to can we sing this one again? Well, I'm not really feeling it, and I've been working on this new song. So it's really important to know that we have different songs for different purposes, right? You can have simple songs in the child's repertoire that are used for warm-ups, because singing a song is a much more engaging warm-up than not necessarily doing like vocal fragments, right? So songs can be used as warm-ups, but they're short and sweet. You can have songs that you use for learning music reading, for specifically doing some sight singing. Yes, of course, we have songs for performances. Cindy says, what do you think of recording them and having them watch the performance? I like that. For some students find it a little triggering. I've had a couple of students that really don't like watching themselves, so I encourage it. But that is a great way of getting them ready for performances. I would always like, especially because, not always do I have parents in the room, but I always like to do a special recording of the song and send it to mom and dad, right? Like that makes a parent's day so much, to see our children doing something and celebrating that. Oh my gosh, I'd cut my left arm off for that stuff. So we have songs for performances, like recital songs, and songs for fun. I always had a song for the grumpy student. So I'd always, teaching through observation, when I had a student come in and they had a really crummy day, or they're in a bad mood, or they're low energy, or they just had a fight with their mom on the way to their lesson, which is a thing apparently, I would always have a fun song that I knew would pick them up, that I knew they would sing well. And that was our warm up, and it changed the energy. And that was the purpose of the song. Warm up, have some fun, so we can have a productive lesson. So we do have different, and we want different songs for different purposes. And you do not need to get them to a performance ready. Like, all of them don't need to be performance ready. Some of them can merely be studies. And some of the songs that kids bring in, whether it's that big sing pop song or that song that you're like, oh my goodness, of course you want to sing this song. I would still give them an opportunity to try pieces of it, but it just wouldn't, I would just say flat out, like, this is probably not going to be your performance piece, but we can totally have fun singing the verse and the chorus and seeing how it feels. So every song has different purpose. And no, you don't have to you do not have to get it to a performance level if it's not a performance piece. So just something to think about, and you can take the pressure off of yourself and your students. Now, somebody asked this question: what is your go-to song for nervous beginners? This is a good question, because most of our beginners, especially when they're getting started, they can be pretty nervous. So again, I have two recommendations. One is a freebie. So Donna Rodenizer is a doll and has been part of our Full Voice team for quite some time. She has donated this song to our library. It is a free download. We just redid this, and we redid the lesson plans. And this is a very comprehensive bunch of different activities, different approaches. It's got the lyric page with fun cartoons on it. It's a simple song. And when it comes to children, asking them to relate to animals or sharing stories about their pets is a wonderful way for creating pictures in their mind, for personalizing the song. And love this piece for silly fun. Yes, for sure. Now, you have to sign up to get it. You have to register, and it's sent through an email. You're already on our list, so you'll just be still on our list. But that is on our website. I love this song. This is I've used this with small group classes. I've used this with the solo singers. I've used this as a sight reading study for some of my older students, and they all smile and they all tell me about their pets, and it's lovely. Now, my second all-time favorite, I mean, I have a lot of favorites, but this one really, time and time again, has blown me away with how much the kids relate to it. And this is Dark and Dingy by Glyn Lehman. This is a beautifully written piece of art. So it is a stormy night from the perspective of a dog. So we know how dogs get stressed out in a storm, right? So the first half of the song is the storm, and the piano accompaniment is all intense and it's very dramatic. And then it is in a minor key. And then the second section is about how their owner is calming them down and getting them up on the bed and telling them everything is going to be okay. And it's so lovely. Now, Glyn did a band track for this. It's fully orchestrated with cymbals and crashes and strings, and it's so dramatic. My little student, I taught Esther this when she was like 7 or 8, and she still would request to sing it when she was 12. She loved it so much. This is a minute long. Beautiful piece of art song for a child in a minute. And there's so many things there. I love this song. It's so well crafted, and this would be my go-to. And if you have a student that's nervous or really timid, they can relate to the dog. Oh my goodness, expressive singing. All of our evil plans come together. So those are my 2 favorite songs for getting started with a beginner who's really shy or nervous. I always like to tell all of my colleagues here, first of all, Ellie, Cindy, Melissa, Julie, thank you so much for coming today and being part of our presentation. And thank you for these amazing questions. If you're watching this online, I'm including you in this statement, but my friends, you're doing a great job. Teaching is as challenging as it is rewarding, and there's always something that we can learn to do better. And I love that you are here, and I love that you are learning and asking these great questions. But I know deep down inside that you are wowing your students and you're holding space for them and you're doing an amazing job. So keep doing the good work. All right, my friends. And Minnie says, yes, I have a doxy. I have a wiener. She's a lot. And she's sad because we have a frog in the pond and I didn't let her chase the frog today. But we'll go. Do you want to chase the frog? Yes. All right. So, my friends, thank you so much. I hope today was helpful, and I am sending everybody a big hug from Nova Scotia, Canada. Please keep doing the work that you are doing with your students. Oh my gosh, now more than ever, is it not important to help humans find their voices? Is it not important to have a place where they can build confidence in their voice, speaking and otherwise? So the work that we do often goes unrecognized in some cases, but it is important work. And the team at Full Voice, we are behind you 150%. And thank you so much for supporting our composers. And I'm wishing everybody an amazing week. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.